The massive Cathari warship Void Hunter cut through the darkness of space like a blade through silk. Its hull gleamed with an oily black sheen that seemed to absorb the light from distant stars. Commander Veltar stood on the bridge, his arms clasped behind his chitinous back as he studied the holographic display floating before him. "Report," he clicked in the harsh tones of his species. Sub-Commander Krikstal stepped forward, his scaled head bowing slightly. "We have found what we seek, Commander. The third planet in this system shows no signs of life or technology. Our long-range scans detect only background radiation and dead cities." Veltar's compound eyes glittered with satisfaction. For months, the Cathari fleet had been searching for the perfect staging ground to launch their invasion of human space. They needed somewhere isolated, forgotten, and most importantly, undefended. This dead world on the outer rim seemed ideal. "Show me the surface scans," Veltar commanded. The hologram shifted, displaying a brown and gray planet covered in what looked like ancient craters and the skeletal remains of long-dead cities. The surface was scarred and lifeless, marked by the telltale signs of some catastrophe that had happened long ago. "Perfect." "The humans called it Terra 7, Krikstal continued. "Our intelligence suggests they abandoned it over 2 centuries, ago after some kind of war or disaster. The radiation levels are elevated but not dangerous to our species." Veltar nodded slowly. Humans were known for their destructive nature. They probably poisoned their own world and fled like the cowards they were. The elevated radiation would actually help hide the Cathari ships from any passing human patrols. "Any defensive installations? Orbital platforms? Automated systems?" Veltar asked. "Nothing, Commander. The planet is completely dead. No energy signatures, no electromagnetic activity, no signs of recent habitation. Even the old human cities are just empty ruins now." The bridge fell silent except for the low hum of the ship's engines. Veltar studied the dead world for several long moments. It was almost too perfect. A lifeless planet right on the edge of human territory, close enough to launch quick strikes against their colonies, but far enough away to avoid detection. "What about the other planets in this system?" he asked. "The inner worlds are gas giants, with no strategic value. The asteroid belt shows signs of old mining operations, but they've been abandoned for decades. This system is forgotten, Commander. The humans have written it off completely." Veltar's mandibles clicked with pleasure. The Cathari Empire had been planning this invasion for years. They had studied human weaknesses, mapped their trade routes, and identified their most valuable colonies. But they needed a base of operations, somewhere to gather their forces and coordinate their attacks. This dead world would serve perfectly. "Signal the advance fleet," Veltar ordered. "We will establish our forward base on Terra 7. Begin landing operations immediately." As the Void Hunter and its escort ships descended toward the planet's atmosphere, Veltar felt a surge of anticipation. Soon, hundreds of Cathari vessels would be using this world as their launching point. From here, they would strike at the soft human colonies, capturing their resources and technology before the human military could respond. The planet's surface grew larger in the view screen as they approached. Veltar could see the empty cities more clearly now, their buildings, reduced to twisted metal and broken concrete. Whatever had happened here, it had been thorough. The humans had left nothing behind but ruins and radiation. "Landing site selected, Commander," reported the navigation officer. "A flat area near what used to be a major city. Good visibility in all directions and suitable for establishing a base camp. Excellent. Begin landing procedures." The great ship touched down with a gentle vibration that Veltar felt through the deck plates. Around them, the other vessels in the advance fleet were also landing, their hulls gleaming in the pale light of the system's distant star. Veltar made his way to the observation deck to get his first direct look at their new base. The landscape stretched out before him, barren and empty under a gray sky. Nothing moved except the wind stirring clouds of dust across the broken ground. "Perfect." "Commander," Krikstal appeared beside him. "The advance teams are ready to begin construction of the base facilities. Where would you like them to start?" "Begin with the command center and communications array," Veltar replied. I want to be in contact with the main fleet within the day, then focus on defensive positions and supply depots. This world may look dead, but I want to be prepared for anything. As the Cathari crews began unloading equipment and setting up their base, none of them noticed the almost imperceptible tremor that ran through the ground beneath their feet. None of them detected the faint electromagnetic pulse that briefly flickered through the planet's crust. None of them realized that every step they took, every piece of equipment they placed, every word they spoke was being carefully observed and recorded. Far below the surface in chambers they could never imagine, other eyes were watching. Patient eyes, human eyes, and they were very much alive. 5 kilometers beneath the aliens' feet, Major Han-Sol Kim sat in a chair that had not seen sunlight for 3 years. The command center around him buzzed with quiet activity, its walls lined with dozens of glowing screens that showed every corner of the planet's surface. He watched the Cathari soldiers unpack their equipment directly above his head, their movements tracked by sensors so small they were invisible to the naked eye. "Sir, they're setting up what looks like a communications tower," whispered Lieutenant Dae-Yun Park from her station. Her voice was barely audible, though the aliens above could never hear them through 5 kilometers of solid rock and advanced sound dampening. Han-Sol nodded without taking his eyes off the main display. The aliens moved with military precision, but they had no idea they were being watched by hundreds of human eyes. Every step they took was recorded. Every word they spoke was captured and translated by the base's computer systems. The underground city of Fortress Lazarus stretched in all directions around the command center. Tunnels connected living quarters to workshops, cafeterias to medical bays, training rooms to the massive fusion reactors that powered it all. Over 3,000 humans lived and worked in this hidden world, and they had been preparing for this moment for years. "Lieutenant Park, what's their current troop strength?" Han-Sol asked. "Approximately 200 soldiers on the surface, sir. But our deep space sensors are detecting more ships approaching. Looks like they plan to use this as a major base." Han-Sol smiled slightly. The more ships that came, the better. Every alien vessel that landed gave them more intelligence, more targets, and more proof of the enemy's invasion plans. The Cathari thought they had found the perfect hiding spot, but they had actually walked into the most sophisticated trap in human military history. Sergeant Min-Ho Lee approached with a data tablet in his hands. His boots made no sound on the rubberized floor as he moved between the workstations. "Sir, we've broken their basic communication codes. We're intercepting their reports to the main fleet." "What are they saying?" "They're very pleased with themselves," Min-Ho said with a grin. "They think this planet is the perfect base. They're telling their commanders that the humans are too stupid to defend their outer territories properly." Han-Sol chuckled quietly. If only they knew. Fortress Lazarus had been built in complete secrecy over 15 years ago, designed to look like a dead world while housing one of humanity's most advanced military installations. The surface had been carefully sculpted to appear lifeless, complete with fake ruins and controlled radiation signatures that would fool even the most advanced sensors. "Sir," called Corporal Ji-Hoon Yu from the sensor station, "they're bringing in heavy construction equipment. Looks like they plan to build permanent structures." "Even better," Han-Sol replied. "The longer they stay, the more comfortable they get, and the more they tell us about their invasion plans." Deep in the residential section of the underground city, Private Sujin Nam finished her shift monitoring the surface cameras and made her way to the cafeteria. The halls were carved from solid rock but lined with metal panels that gave them a clean, modern appearance. Soft lighting made the underground spaces feel almost normal, though everyone knew they were living in what was essentially a giant bunker. She sat down with her meal tray next to her friend, Technician Kyung-Ho Shin, who was studying a tablet, full of alien ship specifications. "How many ships now?" she asked quietly. 15 on the surface, with more coming every day," Kyung-Ho replied. "The intelligence teams are having a field day. These aliens are giving us everything we need to know about their technology and tactics." Sujin looked up at the ceiling, knowing that somewhere far above them, alien soldiers were walking around thinking they owned the place. "It's hard to believe they can't detect us at all." "The engineers did amazing work," Kyung-Ho said proudly. "The entire base is shielded and hidden. The fusion reactors are buried so deep and so well protected that their energy signature looks like natural background radiation. Even our air recycling systems are designed to produce no detectable output. Back in the command center, Han Sol studied the growing intelligence files on his personal screen. The Cathari were not just using this world as a simple base. They were turning it into the headquarters for their entire invasion of human space. Ship manifests, troop deployments, supply schedules, target lists. Everything was being transmitted through their communications network, and the humans were recording every bit of it. "Lieutenant Park, how long before their main fleet arrives?" he asked. "Based on intercepted messages, approximately 6 weeks, sir. They're gathering forces from across their empire." Han Sol leaned back in his chair and smiled. 6 weeks to gather? More intelligence. 6 weeks to prepare their response. 6 weeks for the aliens to become completely comfortable and confident in their hidden base. The Cathari had no idea that every moment they spent on Terra 7 made them more vulnerable. They thought they had found the perfect launching point for their invasion. Instead, they had placed themselves exactly where the humans wanted them. In the depths of Fortress Lazarus, 3,000 humans waited patiently in their hidden city, watching and learning and preparing for the moment when the hunters would become the hunted. 3 weeks had passed since the first Cathari ships landed on Terra 7, and the alien base had grown into a small city. Commander Veltar stood in his command tent, studying holographic maps of human space while his officers planned their upcoming attacks. Above ground, hundreds of alien soldiers moved freely across what they believed was their private world. Below ground, Private Sujin Nam gripped her coffee cup tightly as she watched the aliens through her monitor. Her shift had started 6 hours ago, and she was tired of seeing the enemy walk around so freely above her head. Every fiber of her being wanted to grab a weapon and charge up to the surface. "This is torture," she whispered to Corporal Ji-Hoon Yu, who was monitoring the next station over. "We could take them all out right now. Why are we just sitting here?" Ji-Hoon glanced around to make sure no officers were listening, then leaned closer. "Because Major Kim knows what he's doing. Every day they stay up there, we learn more about their plans." "But they're planning to attack human colonies," Sujin hissed. "People are going to die while we sit down here doing nothing." "We're not doing nothing," Ji-Hoon replied firmly. "Look at your screen. Really look at it." Sujin turned back to her monitor, which showed real-time footage of the alien base. She could see Cathari soldiers unloading supply crates, technicians, working on communication equipment, and officers moving between different areas of their growing installation. "What am I supposed to see?" she asked. "Count the ships," Ji-Hoon said quietly. Sujin's eyes widened as she realized what he meant. When the aliens first arrived, there had been 15 ships. Now there were over 40 vessels of various sizes scattered across the surface. More were arriving every day. In the command center, Major Han Sol Kim studied the same scene with satisfaction. The Cathari were doing exactly what he had hoped they would do. They were concentrating their forces in one location, bringing together ships and troops from across their empire to prepare for their invasion. "Lieutenant Park, what's our current intelligence haul?" he asked. Dayun looked up from her workstation, where streams of intercepted alien communication scrolled past in translated text. "It's incredible, sir. We've identified their entire fleet structure, their supply lines, their target priorities, and their timeline for the invasion." She brought up a holographic display that showed the Cathari battle plans in detail. Red dots marked human colonies they planned to attack first. Green lines showed their intended supply routes. Blue symbols indicated where they planned to establish forward bases after the initial invasion. "They're planning to hit the agricultural worlds first," Dayun continued. "They want to cut off food supplies to the major population centers before launching their main assault." Han Sol nodded grimly. It was a smart strategy, but now that the humans knew about it, they could warn the colonies and prepare defenses. Every piece of information the aliens transmitted was another advantage for humanity. Sergeant Minho Lee approached with the daily intelligence summary. "Sir, we've also learned about their weapons technology. Their plasma cannons are powerful, but have a significant recharge time. Their shields are strong against energy weapons but vulnerable to kinetic projectiles. And their command structure? Han Solo asked. Very hierarchical. If we can take out their senior officers, their entire operation will fall apart. They don't train their lower ranks to think independently. Han Solo filed this information away with everything else they had learned. The Cathari were skilled warriors, but they had weaknesses, and now the humans knew exactly what those weaknesses were. In the engineering section of Fortress Lazarus, technician Kyung-Ho Shin worked on modifications to the base's hidden weapon systems. The underground installation had been designed as a defensive fortress, but the weapons had been built to remain completely undetectable until the moment they were needed. How much longer until we're ready? Asked his assistant, mechanic Subin Oh. The surface weapons are ready now, Kyung-Ho replied, adjusting a targeting computer. But Major Kim wants us to wait until their main fleet arrives. The bigger the target, the bigger the impact. Subin looked nervous. What if they discover us before then? What if someone makes a mistake? We've been preparing for this for years, Kyung-Ho said confidently. Every system is designed to be completely silent and hidden. As long as we follow protocols, they'll never know we exist. Back in the residential area, Su Jin sat in the small recreation room with several other junior personnel. The walls were painted with murals of Earth's landscapes to help everyone remember what they were fighting for. A small group was playing cards while others read books or worked on personal projects. I heard they're bringing in their command ship next week, whispered technician Jaemin Kang. The one with all their senior officers. Good, muttered Su Jin. Maybe then we can finally do something instead of just watching. Patience, said Corporal Yu, who had overheard. The Major has a plan. When we finally act, it's going to be worth the wait. Above them, the Cathari continued their preparations, completely unaware that every move they made was being observed and recorded. They had found what they thought was the perfect base, but they had actually walked into the most patient trap in military history. The waiting game continued, and the humans were winning without firing a single shot. The morning sun cast long shadows across what the Cathari believed was their secure base on Terra 7. Commander Veltar stood outside his command structure, watching his troops prepare for the final phase of their invasion plan. 63 ships now dotted the landscape, including the massive command vessel Dark Sovereign that had arrived 3 days earlier. Everything was proceeding perfectly. Commander, Sub-Commander Krixtal approached with a data pad. The main assault fleet will arrive tomorrow. Once they're here, we can begin our attacks on the human colonies. Veltar's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. Excellent. Signal all ships to prepare for departure sequences. I want to be ready to move the moment our reinforcements arrive. 5 kilometers below, Major Han Sol Kim watched the same scene through his monitors with a very different feeling. After 7 weeks of patient observation, the time had finally come. The Cathari had brought together the largest concentration of their forces in one place, exactly as he had hoped. All stations, this is command. Han Sol spoke into his headset. Execute Phoenix Protocol. Repeat, execute Phoenix Protocol. Throughout Fortress Lazarus, thousands of humans moved with practiced precision. Blast doors that had been sealed for weeks suddenly opened. Hidden elevators began carrying personnel and equipment toward the surface. Weapon systems that had been dormant for years hummed to life. Private Sujin Nam felt her heart racing as she grabbed her rifle and followed Sergeant Min Ho Lee toward the surface access tunnel. After weeks of watching and waiting, they were finally going to fight back. Remember your training, Min Ho called to his squad as they moved through the tunnel. Stay low, follow your assigned routes, and trust your equipment. The aliens have no idea we're coming. Above ground, the first sign of trouble came when Cathari sensors detected massive energy spikes from beneath the planet's surface. Commander E.E. Veltar stared at his displays in confusion as readings appeared that should have been impossible. What am I looking at? He demanded. Unknown energy sources, sir. His sensor operator replied, his voice shaking. They're coming from underground all across the base perimeter. Veltar's compound eyes widened in horror as he realized what was happening. This planet isn't dead. It's a trap. But his warning came too late. Across the landscape, enormous sections of the dead surface began to move. What the aliens had thought were natural crater formations suddenly revealed themselves as carefully camouflaged covers. Huge panels slid away to expose weapon batteries that had been hidden just beneath the surface. Lieutenant Da-Yun Park coordinated the surface weapons from her station in the command center, watching as missile launchers rose from the ground like mechanical flowers blooming in the morning light. "Surface weapons online, sir. All targets locked and ready." "Fire," Han Sol ordered simply. The sky above Terra 7 erupted in brilliant flashes as dozens of concealed weapons opened fire simultaneously. Plasma cannons that had been disguised as rock formations sent streams of energy into the alien ships. Missile batteries launched waves of projectiles that streaked across the landscape with deadly precision. Commander Veltar watched in shock as his carefully positioned fleet was torn apart by weapons that appeared to come from the planet itself. Ships that had been parked for weeks found themselves under attack from weapons they never knew existed. "All ships, emergency takeoff," he screamed into his communicator. "This planet is armed. Repeat, the planet is armed." But the Cathari ships were not prepared for immediate departure. Many had their engines powered down for maintenance. Others were in the middle of loading supplies. The humans had timed their attack perfectly, catching the alien fleet at its most vulnerable moment. Sergeant Minho Lee emerged from a hidden entrance that the aliens had walked past hundreds of times without noticing. His squad spread out across the surface, their weapons trained on alien soldiers who were running in panic between their damaged ships. "Surrender now and you will not be harmed," he called out in the Cathari language, which he had learned during the weeks of intercepting their communications. Some aliens dropped their weapons immediately. Others tried to fight back, but they were outnumbered and outgunned by humans who knew their exact positions and capabilities. Corporal Ji-Hoon Yu led another squad toward the alien command center, where Commander Veltar was desperately trying to coordinate a defense. The Cathari commander's forearms moved frantically over his control panels as he watched his invasion fleet burn around him. "How?" Veltar clicked in disbelief as human soldiers surrounded his position. "How is this possible? Our sensors showed nothing." "Your sensors showed exactly what we wanted them to show," Ji-Hoon replied in perfect Cathari. "Welcome to Terra 7, or as we call it, Fortress Lazarus." In the command center, Han Sol watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. The attack was proceeding exactly as planned. The alien fleet was being systematically destroyed by weapons they never knew existed, operated by soldiers who had studied their every weakness for weeks. "Sir," Da-Yun reported, "we're detecting several ships attempting to escape the atmosphere." "Let them go," Han Sol replied. "We want survivors. We want them to tell others what happened here." The trap had sprung perfectly, and the hunters had become the hunted. The battle for Terra 7 lasted exactly 4 hours and 17 minutes. When the smoke cleared and the last alien weapon fell silent, Major Han Sol Kim stood on the surface of his world for the first time in 3 years. The morning air felt strange in his lungs after breathing recycled atmosphere for so long. Around him, the landscape was littered with the burning wreckage of what had once been the pride of the Cathari invasion fleet. 63 ships had landed on Terra 7 over the past 2 months. Only 12 managed to escape, and most of those were badly damaged. Commander Veltar knelt in the dirt with his hands bound behind his back, his forearms twisted at awkward angles. His compound eyes stared at the human soldiers surrounding him with a mixture of fear and disbelief. The proud Cathari commander who had thought he was conquering a dead world now found himself a prisoner on a very much alive fortress. "This is impossible," he clicked weakly. "Our intelligence said this planet was abandoned, dead for centuries." "Your intelligence was wrong," Lieutenant Da-Yun Park replied as she approached with a communication device. "Or rather, it was exactly what we wanted you to believe." She activated the device and held it toward the defeated commander. "Major Kim would like you to send a message to your fleet." Han Sol stepped forward, his expression calm, but his eyes hard as steel. "Tell them what happened here, Commander. Tell them exactly what you found." Veltar's mandibles clicked in confusion. "You want me to warn them?" "I want you to tell them the truth," Han Sol replied. that you discovered Terra 7 was not a dead world at all, that it was a fortress hidden in plain sight, that humanity is not as weak or careless as you believed. The communication device crackled to life as Veltar reluctantly transmitted his report to the surviving ships. His words were heard not just by the fleeing vessels, but by Cathari command centers across their empire. Within hours, the story would spread to every corner of alien space. Private Sujin Nam watched from nearby as the message was sent. After weeks of waiting and watching, she finally understood the brilliance of Major Kim's plan. This had never been about destroying one alien fleet. It had been about destroying something much more valuable: their confidence. "Sir, Sergeant." Minho Lee approached with a datapad. "We've finished processing the intelligence we gathered. The Cathari invasion plans are completely compromised. We know their target lists, their supply routes, their fleet positions, everything." Hansol nodded with satisfaction. "Send all of it to Earth Command immediately. Make sure every human colony on their target list receives advance warning." As the reports were transmitted across human space, the true scope of the victory became clear. The Cathari had not just lost ships and soldiers on Terra 7, they had lost their entire strategic advantage. Their invasion plans were now known to their enemies, their weaknesses exposed, their military capabilities fully understood. 3 days later, the first reports began arriving from across the galaxy. Cathari fleets that had been preparing to attack human colonies were suddenly changing course. Some were returning to their homeworlds, others were taking defensive positions. All of them were looking over their shoulders, wondering what other dead worlds might actually be hidden fortresses. Corporal Ji-Hoon Yu brought the latest intelligence summary to Han Sol in the command center. "Sir, we're detecting massive troop movements throughout Cathari space. It looks like they're pulling back from their forward positions." "Good," Han Sol replied, studying the holographic display that showed alien fleet movements across dozens of star systems.
Fear is a powerful weapon, sometimes more powerful than any gun or missile. The psychological impact of the Terra 7 deception was spreading like wildfire. Other alien species that had been watching the Cathari invasion with interest were
now reconsidering their own plans. If humans could hide an entire military installation so completely that it appeared to be a dead world, what else might they be hiding? Technician Kyung-Ho Shin approached with a communication from Earth Command. "Sir, we're receiving congratulations from the highest levels. They want to know if we can replicate this strategy on other worlds." Han Sol smiled slightly. "Tell them we already have. Terra 7 was just the beginning." As the weeks passed, the effects of the Fortress Lazarus revelation continued to ripple across the galaxy. Alien intelligence agencies began questioning every piece of data they had about human space. Military planners started assuming that every uninhabited human world might actually be a hidden stronghold. The very uncertainty created by the deception became a defensive advantage for humanity. Commander Veltar, now imprisoned in the underground facility he had never known existed, watched the reports with growing despair. His proud invasion fleet had been turned into a cautionary tale. His empire's military might had been revealed as hollow bluster, and worst of all, he had been the one to deliver the victory to his enemies. "How long have you been planning this?" he asked Han Sol during one of their interrogation sessions. 15 years. Han Sol replied simply. "We knew someone would eventually try to invade. We just had to be patient enough to wait for them to make the first move." As the sun set over Terra 7, now openly revealed as Fortress Lazarus, Han Sol stood on the surface and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien commanders were staring at charts of human space and wondering what other secrets humanity might be hiding. The dead world had come alive, and the galaxy would never be the same.